What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined as always by Connor Rogers. It's nervous times coming out of Florham Park, so this is a perfect day for us to be recording both a podcast and a war room where we'll answer all your Discord questions, which will hit tomorrow a.m. Connor, how you doing? How you feeling? Pull up your Dr. Melfi chair. The doctors are back in.
They really are. I'm just digesting all of these camp tweets that are, shout out to the beat. Like they're just reporting what they see, right? And it's, and during camp, and I speak from experience just of last week, things are moving so fast and you are also restricted to what you can put out there about certain things and stuff that you don't have time or always the ability to just break down perfect context of what this play was and why it didn't work. And so I think that can sometimes create a little panic if a fan just sees Justin Fields was 6 of 17 and threw 2 picks, and which he hasn't been throwing a lot of interceptions in camp. That hasn't been a big issue. So there's so many different ways to look at it. You and I are going to get into all of it today. There are reasons to not worry and overreact. And then there's also things that haven't really changed that we expected in the offseason that are now just transpiring in camp, right? Like after Garrett Wilson, the Jets aren't talented at wide receiver. And we'll speak to some of the shortcomings that arrive with that. So, yeah, I mean, they haven't even played a preseason game. And I think Aaron Glenn, even at his podium this week, was like, hey, I'm not worried because it's early.
Yes. So let's do a game of to panic or not to panic.
Right. This is the best way to do it, bit by bit.
So we'll start with Fields. It's the most important position in the sport. Underdog, we love you. What are you doing with the stat tweet graphic today over the last 3 days for Fields? Really throwing everyone into a frenzy. I don't blame Underdog. I don't blame Hughes. This is the fodder that people are looking for. But Fields has had a tough few days throwing the football. He's been inconsistent. I think that's been pretty ubiquitous across the board of everyone reporting that. The stats I don't get too crazy about because we know there's drops mixed in. We know there's context to the situations, but we can say on the whole, it hasn't been great for him throwing the football the last handful of days. Is this a reason to panic or a reason not to panic at this phase of the summer?
This one's a little 50-50. You're definitely not panicking, right? Because this is a quarterback that is in yet another system that is throwing to Garrett Wilson for a year in college. Like that's a long time ago. It doesn't necessarily count as well. They should be fully back up to speed by now. Throwing to a lot of new faces, some new faces being acclimated to an NFL level offense and the speed of an NFL practice for the first time, including Mason Taylor, Arian Smith, those guys. And we've been tough on the Arian Smith pick on the podcast, but we're also going to be fair now that he's a pro and discuss, development and all those things like that. So I think there's two different sides of it, and both are, just being realistic. The one side is, can we give Fields a little time to settle into the offense, throw into these playmakers, and get comfortable? Because he is still a young quarterback. And don't just react just because you're going off of, well, this is who he's always been. Yeah, we know that, right? That's why I think most realistic people aren't expecting Fields to be the next Baker Mayfield turning point, but a guy that you could still win games with. The other side of it is, if you want to be a little bit more, though, even more optimistic, is the best attribute of Justin Fields is his running ability. And to be more specific, his running ability when the play breaks down. Not just design running, but more importantly, nobody's open. I have to get past one player, and now I have 15 yards in front of me. The Jets, I obviously don't want him just spending all practice reps doing that. There's been times where he's done it, but they want Fields to drop back and throw within the timing of the offense, which is what he needs to work on and something he is struggling with. But the most dangerous part of Fields' game does not translate to camp. It doesn't. So do I think Fields is as bad of a quarterback as the practice reactions and numbers are indicating in an actual live NFL setting when the lights are on and the games matter? No, I don't think he's this bad. But do I think it's fair to be concerned that he's not ever going to develop into the passer that you would hope he would be at the NFL level? And the Jets supporting cast is not a supporting cast that can supplement that development, because after Garrett Wilson, it's a lot of really big question marks. Yeah, that's fair. So the bottom line is, Fields isn't as bad as he's been made out to be in camp, but Fields is the lingering question that's going to follow him until he proves otherwise is, can he take the next step as a passer to be a long-term NFL starter? And he clearly hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
That's why they got him for the contract they got him for. How many times are you going to say it?
It's a bridge quarterback from a contract standpoint. I think I boil it down to three things. As it stands now, until we see otherwise, Justin Fields is a very good runner for an NFL quarterback, a below-average passer for an NFL quarterback, and is a bridge quarterback lottery ticket for the Jets until proven otherwise. I don't think the safe betting money right now is that Justin Fields is the Jets starting quarterback week 1 of 2027. He could prove us wrong. It'd be great if he proved us wrong, but we have to keep all that context in mind until we get more game tape that shows it otherwise. Next point, injuries. So this seemed worse than it was today, and I always encourage people, don't react to mid-practice tweets about injuries. Breece Hall is leaving the field. Oh my God! 10 minutes later, he's back in drills. He just walked off with the trainer. He might have had to take a dump. He might have had to get his ankles retaped. Like, these things happen during practice. It doesn't always mean the end of the world. However, Mason Taylor, ankle sprain. Aaron Glenn said he's probably out for about a week. Ankle sprain could be 1 to 3 weeks, could be a lingering thing. He's a rookie tight end. I don't love that. Malachi Moore, seems like he's back. That injury is not as severe as we thought. John Simpson, Quinnen Williams, each it seems like they're being cautious with. Tyrod, it just seems like an age thing. That is basically the pack of injuries right now. Overall, based on where we are in camp and the diagnosis for those guys, is this abnormal compared to anything around the league? Is it anything beyond normal to panic about? For me, the only thing that concerns me out of that group is Mason Taylor missing more than like 2 weeks, because it's very hard to start as a rookie at any position, despite the back and forth in the press conference today, if you miss a lot of training camp. I don't think that's a reach to say at all.
You're going to have injuries, and you're going to have injuries in a camp that's very physical, right? And the tone of this camp has been, we are not going into the season and looking like absolute bums when it comes to tackling. And if a couple guys getting banged up, if that happens along the way, then so be it. We are going to take on the war of attrition instead of going into the season like a flag football team. And you know what? Honestly, with a roster this young, I agree with that approach. Of course, if this was a different kind of, we saw this recently with the Jets when they had Tyron Smith and Aaron Rodgers and all these older guys that you had to really kind of manage throughout a training camp. And the upside of that is you go into the season typically with those guys healthy and ready to roll. The downside of that is not only are they rusty, but everyone around them is rusty because they haven't been getting the typical full amount of reps with those guys. The Jets are saying, we'll take on the injury risk and rather not deal with the rust, because honestly, they're probably looking around going, we're not good enough. We can't afford that. So
no bubble wrap this year.
Simpson, it seems a little unclear. I know they said a week, so I'm assuming he's okay. Not a guy you want to be missing, because the Jets, and they could be missing him now. That's not a big deal at all when the actual lights are on, because he is such a great puller in the run game and a big part of the run game that you want him out there. So it's like Simpson, I think he'll be fine. Talk about league-wide, this just happens. Look at the Jets play the Bills week 2. Khalil Shakir is dealing with a high ankle that he's not guaranteed to be good for that game. They're dealing with a ton of injuries, the Bills. The Patriots have a ton of guys missing practice every day. It's a physical sport, a physical league, and these are physical training camps, and it happens. Obviously, the rookies you treat a little differently, because it just feels like in this era of the CBA, there are not a lot of reps to get guys ready. The day I was at practice and from following camp and talking to people, Mason Taylor hasn't looked out of place at all. It's been wildly impressive for a young rookie too. I think he just turned 21. For a guy his age to just kind of seamlessly go out and be the starting tight end, don't get me wrong, he's had a couple drops here and there. I mean, the day I was there, he had a drop. He also caught a touchdown. It seems like a ton of practices. Like, he'll have a drop here and there like a lot of guys do, but he never looks lost. He's kind of just been thrown out there as the number one tight end, and they're like, we feel like we're not missing a beat. So if any rookie is equipped for it, it feels like mentally and physically he's fine. But if it's the third week of this ankle sprain, it's like, man. And now our offense is Jeremy Rucker tight end 1 and Stone Smart tight end 2, or Andrew Beck has to be some kind of tight end, variant or whatever it may be. that's where you get concerned. And this is kind of the battle the Jets are dealing with. The roster is constructed in an odd way that they are deep in certain areas, cornerback, running back. They are very, very thin in at pass catcher, at defensive tackle, where like the day I was there, Quinnen was out with a calf injury. And you're watching the Brian Cowarts of the world and all these guys get bumped up. It's kind of like a baseball situation where, say, your ace gets hurt, well, and your number 2 pitcher is a number 4 on most teams. Well, damn, a guy that's really a number 4 pitcher is now our frontline starter. Like, that's how the Jets are at a couple positions right now, and it's going to take them a little while to get this roster right, and you have to outcoach those scenarios. That's how you win games. You outcoach your shortcomings. So the injuries for the Jets, I'm not worried about right now. You obviously want Tyrod to be healthy. I know he's been a little banged up. I thought he looked really good throwing the ball when I was out there. It is noticeable, I think, how like NFL ready Tyrod is. It's just a down by down passer to compared to Fields, but Fields' upside and rushing ability hasn't written in ink as the starter. So yeah, and more we want to see him steal the safety job, but it's just very tough to do that as a day 3 pick if you're not out there from every single day.
Yeah, it feels like that one's going to take a little bit, just listening to Aaron Glenn talking about Tony Adams and how he's like lining people up on the defense. And
I'll tell you one that I don't love is Braylon Allen. And his injury seems to be the least concerning. Like they were saying, he was just sore, a little banged up, missed a couple of days.
Yeah.
I just think I like Braylon Allen. When you are that big and your running style is that upright, you just have to wonder, is there this window where all of a sudden you're not as effective as you need to be? And you kind of saw this last year. Remember, he kind of popped early on and then he just fizzled out. I just wonder if this is going to be a thing with him where we're always excited about the idea of him. And then we have a couple runs where we're like, this guy looks like Derrick Henry, but it's hard to be durable when you run like that at that height where, I mean, I've kind of planted my flag with Isaiah Davis, but
Badlands zone.
I want Braylon Allen to be great, but I just, that's an injury where I'm like, is this just going to keep happening? I really hope not.
Yeah, it's a fair thing to shout out. He's so young, and you hate to see him with the nagging injuries at this point already. And they need him to be a big part of the offense. They need him and Davis to be a big part of this offense with how weak they are at receiver. Last one, then we'll move to our next bit here. I'll just call it holistically the reality of the roster staring people in the face. And you alluded to this a little bit. The reality is, and we could talk around this all we want, and I think both Quincy and Sherwood are going to be awesome this year. I think the secondary is going to be much better with Cisco and Sauce playing better football. I think Stevens has been really good this summer, which is nice to see. Carter's healthy. He was not healthy last year. You cannot coach around the reality of Cowart, Talefe, Nandi, Clemens, Weaver, all playing meaningful reps around Quinnen Williams and Will McDonald until Jermaine Johnson's healthy. I understand they want to be young. It would wildly behoove this team to get Jadeveon Clowney on a 1-year deal, or Zadarius Smith, or Matthew Judon, just to help Quinnen Williams and Will McDonald until Jermaine Johnson is really right. It's easy to say you don't want to rush Jermaine back until you lose week 3 to Tampa 20-17 because you can't get home, and Baker Mayfield has all day to throw back there. And you're like, shit, we really could have won that game. And we just couldn't get home. Let's get Jermaine back. And I just they have the money to do it. You're not breaking the bank for anyone right now. It's a little bit of hubris in my mind with how weak the depth chart is. I think there's certain things you could coach around. And I still think coaches fall into this trap with Clemens where he looks the part. He looks like he should be good. He's big and scary looking. But that doesn't mean they have enough talent. And it goes beyond Clemens. This isn't just a Clemens thing. It's a lot of rotational guys. And we haven't heard, maybe this changes in the preseason, like Eric Watts and Leonard Taylor have been excellent all summer, and they're ready for Watts to take a big leap. Or Weaver's been this nice find who could have 4 sacks this year.
I haven't heard a peep about him in camp after he was the guy in spring.
So that is a real problem staring them in the face. I think with receiver, if the running backs are right and Stone Smart is a little better than maybe we need him to be as a big slot, glorified tight end, whatever he is, maybe you're okay a little bit, but you're putting a lot of trust in a lot of guys who just haven't done it or journeyman. Lazard's not been good this summer, or he's been invisible. Reynolds is Reynolds. He's fine. He's like David Nelson in 2013, if you want a Jets historical comparison. Arian Smith is going to run 10 go routes a game and clear space, and that is what it is. That's a role. I don't know about anything else. I think we're excited about Brandon Smith, but is he really going to play when the lights go on? Corley hasn't done anything. It's generally disappointing that he's been so invisible this summer. I think even though we thought that would happen, I would have loved if he would have shut us up and been like, wow, this guy actually made a leap and he's a player. Gibson's hurt and Gibson's Gibson. He's not going to change who he is. No. So those things are realities. And there's going to be certain weeks. I don't care how well the Jets are coached. You're just going to be out talented at certain times. So look, I would say based on the pods we've done together, us talking offline, I think in your mind, you probably have the Jets as a 6-win team, 6 or 7.
Right.
I probably have them as like a 7, maybe an 8-win team. I would guess Meigs is like 5 or 6. I would guess Paul's
maybe
like
even 4 for
maybe
Meigs.
Maybe even 4. Will and Paul are probably up by me. So where is your general sort of headspace on the overall roster composition? And are the Jets going to shut me up in 2 weeks and just sign one of these veteran guys and like clean it up around the waiver wires? Maybe they will.
One thing that really